Yeah, sure. No problem. So, what we found, I have a note taker.
Okay, cool.
Apply for you, so you send everything to the DRC.
Thank
I haven't heard anything.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Let me know. I know you didn't. Let me know when you want to meet.
Yeah, okay. After class is cool.
I think this is a. I know. Okay. Happy Friday. I hope you guys doing well. Today, just before we start class, Savannah has an announcement regarding the packaging club.
Alright, hey everyone, I'm Savannah and I'm the Vice President of US Packaging Club. And we have the first GBM coming up next Tuesday in this building at 6:30 p.m. In room 122. There will be free food and we'll be discussing like the upcoming events such as packaging competitions. We would love to see all of you guys faces here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, yeah, it's a good opportunity to. I know some of you may have been involved a little bit with the packaging club, but if you're thinking of going in a career in packaging, there's a lot of presentations and we have meetings with different companies through the packaging club, which is advertised through Facebook. There's the packaging club group that you can find. I think you can just search for UF Packaging Club. And what else? Yeah, the student competition. There's some interesting competition in design and with potential of good prize money. 2 years ago, the group of students won $5,000 for a paperboard design competition. So, yeah, it's a good opportunity to meet people and to learn more about packaging. So I encourage you to attend. So I'm going to have the attendance sheet going around. So just can sign it and pass it around. So you also should have received a notification before class this morning about the first homework assignment. So I just want to go over it once to explain to you what I expect and so on. It's pretty straightforward, but every year, every homework, there's people who don't follow the directions. Okay. So you have two documents that are complementary. One is actual paper, and there's a presentation about the same topic. So presentation obviously have a lot more pictures, so it might help clarify a few things presented in the paper. So your first task is going to be to read these things, okay? And I'm asking you just a one-page paper, okay? Where I'm asking you to discuss the following points, A, B, and C, okay? This should be straightforward, okay? Again, I expect one page, okay? So I don't mind if you go over, okay, a little bit. I don't want 5 pages, okay? I don't want half a page as well, okay? And what I want to explain here is that, so for your submission, okay, first here I put it in red. Okay, it doesn't look red, maybe it looks more brown. But please do not summarize the document. So a lot of you do a one-page document, but in the past, if people are just starting to summarize documents, I know the documents. Okay, you don't have to explain it to me. Just cut to the chase, go to the answers, okay, and answer the question. So if you have a page document where you more than half of it is just a summarize of what the author discussed, it's not going to work. I'm asking you to discuss things, okay? Does it make sense? So don't tell me what happened in there. Just go and answer the questions. As well, fortunately, somewhat large class, okay? It's sometimes hard when you don't have things organized, so I'm asking you for question A, label your answer, A, put your answer, B, put your answer, and C, put the answer. That's pretty straightforward, right? Okay? So just follow this. As well, the way those things work, because I'm asking you to submit it through Canvas e-learning, so what I do is I get that batch of document, okay? In a way, it's going to be easier if you submit it in Word document, okay? Some of you like to do it in PDF. But if everything is in Word, I can just convert everything into one ginormous PDF document, which I print in one shot. I don't have to click on each of one of you and print it and grade it and so on. But because I don't like grading on a computer. So for that reason, okay, I really like to have your name, okay, in the file and in the document. So if I don't have your name in the document, then I have to go back and try to match the document to the name. I know it's not that much, but it's not hard for you as well. Just put your name in the document, right? Okay. So I ask you how to name your file. So for me, it will be W, homework 1, so whatever your name is, and then just put your name in the document somewhere, and that's it. So I think it's pretty straightforward. If you do have questions, you let me know. But just follow the directives, and that will make me super happy. Okay? So you have a week to do this. Should be plenty of time. And it's going to be due before the beginning of class. If for any reason you feel like the submission, there's an issue or something, you can always email it to me. Okay? So the fact that Canvas doesn't work is not necessarily an excuse. Just email it to me. Okay? And we'll go from there. And also, I forgot to make sense. So make sure you also send the right document, okay? So I don't know if sometimes students use that as a trick to get extra time. They submit the wrong document. This has been happening sometimes. Make sure it's the right document, okay? Or not a blank or corrupt file. Okay, so good. So that's my announcement for the homework. Just a quick review of what we've done last time. Okay, we talked about pallets, okay, types of wood, types of material as well. We mentioned this plastic, metal pallets, also used sometimes. Obviously, a lot more cost with plastic and metal pallets, and usually you want to see them back. Okay. Wood pallets are a little bit more disposable. Okay. They're really kind of the workhorse of the industry. It's most companies use wood pallets. The thing we've discussed is if you're dealing with international shipment, okay, to prevent any type of spreading of pests or invasive species, wood can be a nice substrate for bugs to build their home. So they need to be heat treated or fumigated to make sure that they prevent the spread of these issues. What's really important, again, this is for international shipment. Okay, so in here we saw as well a few pictures where we discussed the fact that, just to illustrate some issue with storage or pallets being put on a racking system and not necessarily the right way, or with pallet system racking system that did not match the design of the pallet, and that can cause or lead to problems. So that's what a few things that were highlighted in those pictures, and we discussed them. We discussed a few new pallets, okay, and I think we finished with that slide, okay, with the typical sizes of pallets in the U.S. and Canada and Mexico. So, this class, I'm not asking you to. Obviously, you might disagree with me. Okay, you have to memorize a few things, but a lot of the time it's not memorizing. It's not really memorizing. It's understanding and being able to tell me in your own words, okay, what are a few things and what are some definitions and things like this. But memorizing, some things are very important. 48 by 40, you should know that this is a standard size pallet that you see in the U.S. Okay. Again, you're going to have different variations. We're going to see a little bit later. So there's specific industry, for example, if you're looking at shipping bulk glass container, sometimes those pallets are going to be a little bit wider. I think some of them might be 48 by 48. So you have obviously custom sizes and variation, but that's the typical pallet. It's 40 by 48. And we mentioned that Europe uses metric system, obviously, so there's a little bit of variation, and that can cause issues as well with a load designed to fit on a U.S. pallet that doesn't fit on a metric pallet. Okay, it might be a little bit of overhang, and that may be an issue. So, issues with pallet. Here, the Food Marketing Institute holds pallet issue responsible for about half of all observed damage and cites poor pallet footprint. Okay, that's one of the example. Is can be how the boxes fit on the pallet. Okay, it can be as well. I take it personally as well as a way of the pallet deck fit with the boxes on top. Remember, I told you that if you have gaps between on the pallet deck and the corner is not supported, you may get failure. Okay, because of this. Okay, and this is the single largest cause of shipping damage. Of all of this damage, okay, 50% is attributed to poor pallet stability. That can be as well many things, okay, but if the load is not stable on the pallet because it's not stacked properly, because it has not been restrained, have not been used, either stretch wrap, okay, or straps, or things like this, or glue, okay, many other options are not used, so you're going to have poor pallet stability. And 35% is attributed to pallet overhang, okay? That's when your load, okay, exceeds the size of the pallet. Obviously, what are the issues with it? You have poor support on the corner, that's one, and you also have that box that exceeds the pallet that can be bumped, okay, when handled by a forklift or placed into racking system, and so on. Loose nails or other fasteners are also a common problem, okay? Because if you have one of these nails that's stuck out and you try to, or you place a box on the pallet, okay, or you move it around the pallet, it's going to tear, okay? Yes.
You said poor support on the corners, and what else? Over.
So for overhang, so you have poor support on the corners, and also if the box that seats the pallet, if it's handled with a forklift, okay, and tried to be placed into a racking system or something, it's likely to bang on other pallets or racks or other things like this and get damaged because it exceeds the size. And again, I should find some videos, but if any of you have experience through work going into a distribution system, those guys, okay, on forklifts, they go fast, right? It's a bit crazy. You better get out of the way. So they're really skilled, but obviously their work, they need at the speed. And if things do not fit properly, obviously there's mistakes being made as well sometimes. But if the pallet there's an overhang, it's going to get bumped at some point. So unit loads often needs to be stabilized to retain load geometry and order during shipping and handling. So we talked about this briefly a little bit earlier. We mentioned the different ways to stack pallets. Obviously, we mentioned column stacking or cross stacking. So if you want to have column stacking, because you're going to have corner and corner, so it's going to be your box can be a little bit, I would say, less. I would say, how can I put that in proper words? You can use in a way a little bit of weaker boxes if they're stuck corner on corner. So if you want to do this, you need to have something that holds the load in place. So to do that, you can have any type of strapping that can be made of polypropylene, okay? So that will be used for some heavier goods, okay? You can have stretch straps as well, as we're going to see later. If you use strapping, okay, you need to have corner guards, okay? Because those straps are going to bite into the paper and they're going to damage the box as well. So this is an example of good work, okay? Let me turn off that light. Here, so what you see is a few things that are really good, okay? So you have the corner guards. These are bananas, okay? And you see those corner guards, they go all the way down to the pallet here, okay? So obviously the bucks are all put together, but they're allowed to shift on the pallet, okay? That may lead to damage. But if the corner guards are there and helps maintain the load on the pallet, you put those straps and it will help maintain the thing in place. So why I mentioned quickly stretch wrap. What do you think for this example? We're going to use straps instead of shrink wrap. Yes.
Like it would stop the airflow inside to the bananas itself.
Very good. Okay. Bananas are, you mentioned that quickly, but they're alive, right? Okay. So they take in oxygen, they release CO2. If you just strap the whole thing, cover the whole thing with a plastic film, you're going to suffocate them. You're going to ferment them. Okay. Might be an interesting result at the end. Okay, but most likely not. Okay. So there's other option. There's film sometimes that allow respiration, as we will see a little bit later. There's a film that you've seen sometimes when there's construction site, those orange fence that have like big holes. You notice this? You know what I'm talking about? So you can have stretch wrap that have this kind of pattern, basically like big holes, and you can strap it around. So something like this will help, okay, allow respiration, but and work well. But straps are often used. So let's see. Shrink wrapping is rarely used for load unitizing due to high insulation and energy costs. Today's material of choice is stretch wrap. So shrink wrapping, okay, I don't know, just to make sure you understand the difference. So shrink wrap is when you will put, for example, a big shroud over the pallet, and you have to expose it to some kind of heat, okay, or radiation, so it will basically soften the plastic, and the plastic will have a memory of its initial shape, and it will shrink to the shape of the pallet and hold it in place. So you see some of these sometimes for, if I remember, I might be wrong, but I think I've seen stuff like this for dirt, okay, or pebbles. If you go to like a Home Depot or Lowe's, those big pallets, you may have something like this. It's used a lot of times in packaging application. If you have, maybe not this label, but labels that are shrink-on bottles. So on the pallet size, that means you need the big, on a bottle you can shrink it pretty fast, okay, and with little energy. But on a pallet, you need to have a big source of heat, and it's not always used. So good stretch wrapping. Stretch wrapping is when I'll show you a video, okay. You have application that consists of at least 2 overlapping wraps, and that also extend about 2 inches down the pallet to catch the pallet. That's important that whatever you stabilize, not just the box together, but it has to be unitized with the pallet itself so it doesn't shift, okay? Machine wrapping provides better material control, okay, and typically reduce material costs, okay, when compared to hand wrapping. So I don't know if you remember as well, and a slip sheet video, you had those guys wrapping the box together. Anyways, they were not doing that good of a job, but you can have 2 things happening. You can have, I don't know, I'm critical of these guys, poor guys. They've never done anything to me. But you can have people that don't put enough, okay, do not stabilize the load, or you can have people that go overboard and use so much of it that at some point it costs a lot of money. So just to show you, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I have a little, not the most interesting videos maybe, but maybe it's a very interesting music though. Again, if you go to Pack Expo one day, you're going to see a lot of these things. Okay, so let me see. Okay, so these are the bags, okay, of little pellets, I think, for wood fire, for oven, not oven, but stove up north. So they are bagged, and then they are palletized automatically, which is kind of nice, partially because bags are not easy to palletize very nicely. Okay. Okay. So now you see the stretch wrapping happening there. The important thing, that's what I was telling you, is that you have to catch the pallet. Okay. Isn't it something soothing about watching the video? It was good, right? So, first step, then you put the little film on top to make sure if it's a wood product, you don't want to have, particularly these things sometimes get stored a long time in outdoor condition, you don't want to have water getting into there. There we go again. And that will be the cool part here. The little thing's going to be sealed together. You see they put a lot of stretch in there. Heat seal. And it's going to be released. There you go. So that's a mechanical process to do something like this. There's various ways to do that. Okay. Whatever machine you can imagine, they do it mechanically. So, okay. You love the music, right? So stretch wrapping can provide protection against moisture, abrasion, and dirt. That's one thing, okay? And that's important as well, abrasion and dirt, because it depends on the product as well. If you have really I would say, a second or a third level of packaging where the final product, what the consumer is going to see in the retail store, is within a box. It's not sometimes a big deal, but if the box that the consumer is going to see at the retail is directly on the pallet, then, you know, abrasion, okay, just the fact that the paint is messed up or the printing is messed up, or you see wear on the box themselves, that is important, okay? You don't want to project a bad image at the retail level, so stretch wrap can protect or prevent that from happening, okay? Interlocking or cross-stacking pattern, okay, that's the same thing here. Can also contribute to enhance the stability of the load, okay? However, interlocking patterns cause the load to lose up to 50% of its stacking strength compared to column stack. Again, that's the reason why if you have the corner that won't fit on the corner, that will weaken the boxes. And that means you need to have sturdier boxes, okay, if you do that. And that's if you have a heavy product. Obviously, if you're shipping, you know, chips, okay, so it doesn't matter, you know, it's interlocking will help with stabilizing the load, and you don't need a very, you know, sturdy box, okay, because it's so light, okay. So it depends on what you're dealing with, obviously. Load stability, yeah, I did bring something here. Load stability can be increased through the use of high friction printing ink between the boxes, or coating, okay, you can have glue, okay, it can help as well. Tier sheet also improve available compression strength and increase stability by distributing weight and encouraging layers to act as a unit. So I'm going to have this go around, okay. This is an example of actually a sample here. Some of you may not like the feel of it, I don't know why, I just don't like it. But I want you to experience it though. So it's what it is similar to a set sheet, okay, if you want, but it's sheet that can be placed, okay, between tiers or layers on in pallet, and you're going to see a little picture here. So I'm going to have this go around. There's different gauge. This one is very thin, but you have very thick ones. And that paper-based material has been coated with a actually water-soluble compound that really increase the friction, okay? So,
Thank you.
and obviously if you have box sitting on this, it helps distributing the weight, okay? And it also helps with stability. So I'll show you another video here, okay? A bit more. And there's different companies that provide these things. We went from traditional to modern music. So you see the difference. And here you just have those tier sheet between those layers. And you don't necessarily have to have them in between each of them. Okay, it depends what you want to do. That must have been fun. They just use cardboard there. Okay. Best way to unload a container. I'm curious. What is this thing? I'm gonna spend the whole morning on it. There's a lot of dangerous stuff in there.
Every year, billions of containers are shipped from port to port in containers. There are millions of container movements annually worldwide, 40% of which are packed from top to bottom with one and the same product. Unloading these floor-loaded containers costs time and money. Because the containers are loaded without pallets, they can only be unloaded by hand. This involves a lot of labor to unload the boxes or bags from the container and make them ready for transshipment or storage. This system works, but If you regularly deal with unloading containers, then you're aware of the bottlenecks in this process. Your employees have to do a heavy and ergonomically irresponsible job by manually unloading the goods from the container and processing them. You expose your employees to physical risk, and on request, the machine can attach a barcode label to the pallet, and the bigger one is an unmanned machine, which unloads a single SKU fully automatically. The same machine stacks the boxes or bags on pallets, and if required, wraps them in a plastic film, thereby stabilizing the load on the pallet.
That's pretty cool.
On request, the machine can attach a barcode label to the pallet and/or the load for quick storage placement in the correct space in the warehouse. But we go even further, because it tags. An ingenious vision system guarantees that the picker sees the goods and faultlessly removes them from the container, even if they are imbalanced.
That's interesting. So I told you there's a machine for everything. So this thing actually had, I want to tell you a little story about the tier sheet. Maybe, not been a little while, maybe 5 years ago or something, we had a project in collaboration with Spear, which is one of the largest provider of labels. Okay, so they have Pepsi is one of the customer, Tropicana, obviously it's the same, Budweiser and so on, but they were shipping rolls of labels, okay, on a pallet, and they had issues with it, so we had a student project on this. And what they just created is a new setup, okay, and they add, here. So what they add is between the rolls of label, I don't know if everybody's going to see over there, but they add those cardboard or corrugated sheet, okay, and the rolls sat on their side like this, okay, and they add those inserts that go through the rolls, okay, and the corrugated itself to maintain that in place. You guys understand this? Yeah. So, and they are all stacked together like this. So the task for the students was to test that new configuration. So we did vibration and, some drop tests with the forklift and all these things. So it was pretty interesting. But at the end, what the student found is that actually we ordered some of these slip sheets. Okay, we removed all of the corrugated and the plastic insert that they actually made, and we tested just with tier sheet like this. And that's how basically we start to talk about it in my class. But it worked perfectly, and actually, in the end, Pepsi and Spear started to ship their load with that stuff. Okay, so it was pretty cool. A lot simpler, less component, and it worked good. Okay, and also you remember that video? The guy was stopping and everything was flying around. So this happens. Okay, for real. Actually, at one time. This was at an airport in Montreal. We were working in there, and the guy stopped, and it was a load of apples, and it was just like, poof. And I remember we were there, and like in movies, it falls, and then you see the apples like slowly trickling all the way to you. Yeah, so, and then we had to, I don't know, it was a terrible job to put this back together. So, good. Next step, what we're going to talk about, okay, is actually one of the challenge for distribution and packaging, and it's really hard to prevent it. So this is a distribution center. This is actually an Albertson distribution center. Kroger, distribution center. And in there you have a little bit of everything, okay? And when a retail store places an order, okay, so obviously you don't have a full pallet of strawberry or a full pallet of yogurt going to a retail store. You're going to have a few cases of things like this, and they have to mix things, okay? It's really dark here, I apologize for this, but that's what's called mixed loads, okay? So, I don't know if you can see at the back, okay, but you have here a bunch of doors where you have trucks that are backed up in there, and you have the people working in the distribution center that usually they're referred to as lumpers, okay? So they have to prepare those orders, okay? So stack different things together to be loaded on the truck, okay? So what you end up with is a mix of things, okay? This is for obviously a grocery store, so you have apples, tomatoes, bananas, okay? Cherry tomatoes, all of this together, okay? And the problem with this is then you have boxes size that are different, okay? And they are to be packed together. So it's really hard to predict what's going to happen, okay? And there's not much we can do if you use boxes that are not standard, okay? So you have those complicated challenges. This is what's called a mixer. And again, some of you have seen those pictures in Principle of Packaging, but in this you have, yes, you're not dreaming, okay? So you have onions and potatoes, and you have a pallet on top of a pallet, okay? So that's great, and I always say that, but you know, that's why those onions are so banged up at the store level, okay? Because they're not handled with a lot of care. And you have, obviously on top of this, you have sweet potatoes and apples. This is a heavy load, okay? So things like this happens, okay? So on the right-hand side here, what I'm showing you is still a method that is still widely used, okay, to ship produce. This is corn, okay, and it's still shipped in wood crates, okay? So these crates are basically wire bound, so you have those metal wire, you put the corns in there, and you just bend the wires, and it holds together, and it looks terrible, right, okay? Because obviously this is like all flexible, all those sides of the box are all flexible, attached with wire, metal wire, and so it's not a consistent standard shape, and all of this is stacked by hand. So you see they use an interlocking type of pattern here between the tiers, but you have damage, okay, to the product, and it's not really stable. So one of the alternatives that is more and more used, okay, and you see them all the time if you go to Walmart or Super Walmart where they have produce, there's those, oftentimes they are black, okay, plastic container, okay, they are what's called reusable plastic container or returnable plastic container. So either way, they are referred to usually as RPCs, okay? RPCs for reusable plastic container or returnable plastic container. That's what RPC is, okay? So the nice thing about these, okay, is they do have a standard size, okay? And they also have features. I'm going to bring one in class next time. They have features that allow them to interlock with each other, okay? Either if you cross-stack them or column-stack them, they always lock into each other. So they create really nice stacks. And this was an example of test we were running, looking at cooling processes using wood crate and RPCs, okay? And looking at the quality of the product after retail. Because if you're able to cool down sweet corn faster, what happens is it stays sweeter, okay? Because corn, when it's stored at a higher temperature, you have the sugar that are converted to starch, okay? You've had like starchy corn, okay, maybe, but it's an issue. So you want to keep it as cold as possible. So you were looking at how is the cooling process in those cases, and all these products are cooled actually is by water, what's called hydrocooling. They have like those ginormous icy water shower where the water trickles down from the top, and hopefully it goes through all of this and cools down the product. So obviously this is more efficient to do this, but we're studying this and the difference, try to convince, not necessarily, but not convinced because we don't work for our RPC company, but the company, in this case Kroger, wanted to evaluate how much it would be beneficial to use RPCs instead of traditional methods. So other example of mixed load here, the way it's stacked together, it's not very nicely done, okay? So what happened, okay, is the following, okay? So in the 90s, which for you seems a long time ago, okay, large retailers began investing on receiving produce in certain type of containers. So, and this request came from the challenges of retailers and the distribution centers that had to unitize a wide range of box size together. So that's the thing, right? Those guys, the lumpers, okay, they have to play Tetris all day, right? Mixing the boxes, making sure it fits, it doesn't overhang too much, or things like this. So it takes time, okay, because you have to place them together. It causes damage and so on. So that was something that mixed loads are an issue. So why not to try to use standard sizes? So that's where people started to use RPCs, okay? So Walmart is one of these guys that started to use that. So as you know, a lot of stuff is shipped with paper-based material, corrugated, okay? So at some point the corrugated people say, wait a minute, okay? We need to do something about it. We're losing some of our market, okay, to those reusable plastic containers. So what they came up with, okay, is called the corrugated common footprint. So the Fiberboard Association, okay, developed a modular packaging system, which is pretty much the same as an RPC, in a way that you have standard sizes that fits together, can interlock, okay, and even if you have different heights, it doesn't matter. As long as you have full print or half full print, you can match them together. So that's what they came up with, okay? The corrugated common footprint. So when I talk about this, so what things you should be able to tell me, for example, on an exam is that, okay, what is the common footprint, okay? And what basically motivated its creation, okay, if you want, or its coming of age. So in this case, what is the common footprint? It's standards corrugated sizes, okay, that can fit together, interlock. It's a good solution for mixed load. And then why do we use that? Is at some point is to compete with the increases demand for reusable plastic containers. Does it make sense? So whatever words you want to use, okay, things like this are important to understand. And remember, so common footprint container, they come into two standard length and width sizes. You have full size, okay, and half size. Typically, these will fit 5 containers per tier. So if you look at this, if you look quickly, it's basically 24 by 16, okay? Remember what is the standard pallet size?
40 by 48.
40 by 48. So you think about this, okay? You have 24 plus 24 is 48, right? Okay. And then if you have 24 plus 16, 40, okay? So you can fit 4, basically 5. So 3 in one way, 2 in the other, okay? This way. So that would be a full tier, 5 containers. Otherwise, it's going to be 10 containers if you have half of these. And obviously, you can mix them up, okay? So they can be successfully fitted together on a single pallet, and that's the beauty of these things. So what are the benefits of the common footprint here? Obviously, you have better cube utilization. So the volume available on a pallet, you're going to have less gap if everything fits perfectly than if you have to fit different various sizes that may not fit well on this. So if they are better stacking and if they can interlock together, that means you need less or not any, or you may not need any stretch wrapping or anything like this. Okay, you reduce labor costs because it takes less time for people to stack those boxes together. If they're nicely stacked, okay, and they fit together nicely, that means that as well, you're not going to have boxes getting damaged or getting weaker and actually having the product inside supporting the weight, okay? So you have less, this you think about produce because that's really what it started to be used for, you have less produce damage. And that thing is what's called shrink, okay? Shrink is when you have produce that get damaged or just don't make it to the consumer and throw it away, so which is a big issue, okay? So that's one thing. Eliminates the need to clean and return RPCs because it's corrugated. So in a way, corrugated is easily recyclable. It's made actually of a lot of recyclable fibers, part of them. So That's one option that is nice because those are PCs. Obviously, I don't know if it's impossible that you know this, but I should not say it's impossible, but highly unlikely. In these pictures, I'll come back to you here. I don't know if you see this, but these are just stacks of reusable plastic container that will have to be returned at some point. Yes.
Okay, so just to be clear, the common footprint is like a systematic way of packing stuff? Is that what it is?
No, the common footprint is a standard size corrugated container. Okay? That enable in a way, it's not a standard pattern. You can stack them like you want, but in a way, they have standard size that fit in a certain way on a standard pallet, okay? And the thing is, it allows you or the user to stack them nicely instead of having to deal with something like this. You see those boxes, all different sizes, they don't fit nicely together, okay? So that's why you use that. They also interlock together, okay? And they are there to rival, to compete with the RPC. Yes.
So if you were to transition like produce in the common footprint to like international shipping, is there overhang problems in that case because there's like that 20 millimeter difference?
Yeah, you might have some issue, but if you see, they're a little bit smaller, okay? So I did not make a calculation, but this should be enough to give you the play. But hopefully, the thing is, if the pallet is well treated, if it goes over there, you might not necessarily have to, discharge it and put it on a regular pallet. But if it were to be on the mixed load over there, they should be designed to fit. Yes, that's a good question.
Is there like a systematic way of packing stuff? Like, for example, like if you have a big box and a medium box and a small box, like the big one goes at the bottom and then the medium and then the top.
Yeah, I would not say there's a systematic way. Okay, what you can see in, how many of you are taking computer tools with Dr. Well? Some of you. So in that, you should use what's called CAPE software. This is a software that, I don't know if I answered your question, but if you have certain type of boxes, that will basically run an optimization process to see how it fits on a pallet, how you different options to fit them on a pallet footprint, how it will fit in a truck, and so on to make you make a decision. So there are software to help you make those decisions that exist. But in a way, if you go into a mixed load, that you're not going to run the software. It's those guys, okay, that work and put the boxes together, okay? So the robot we saw earlier for the marine container, they specified it was from a single SKU product. So it's just a container full of the same thing, okay? That makes it easier. But otherwise, it's going to be challenging. I'm going to finish with this, okay? Obviously, there's also another fact here that it's lighter than RPCs, okay? Those plastic containers, they are sturdier, okay? But they are heavier. Oh, that's the other thing I was showing you on the picture is that they stack them. So these RPC, what they have to do is they have to be returned. And what you have to do, you have to clean them. And one of the issues, actually, we had some project with this is you have to peel off all of these labels, okay, that people stick with the barcodes and destination and so on. So, and that sometimes causes issues because some of these stickers, they just stick. So, that's what they're designed to do, right? So, that's something that some people don't want to deal with. So I'm going to, since we're really going to a different section there, going to air transportation, I'm going to stop here for today. If you arrive late, make sure you sign the attendance sheet that should have made its way back to the end over there. And I'll retrieve it on my way out. So thank you very much. Have a great weekend. And I'll see you next Monday.